Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare. When I was little and we were on holiday, my dad used to get me to say I was younger than I was so we could get into theme parks cheaper. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Parents of Reddit, what is the most embarrassing thing your toddler said out loud in public? Number 1. My oldest daughter and I used to run away from my wife when we went shopping. One time, we got particularly far away and I asked her, "What do you want to do now that mom can't stop us?" She exclaimed loudly, "Near others, we can punch a stranger." Number 2. There is a man who lives in our village with no arms. Mr. M. His children attended my son's nursery, so he has met him many times. We were in a packed doctor's waiting room one day and Mr. M came in. "Son," at full volume, "look mummy. There's Mr. M that I told you about. He has no arms. Look. Look." Pointing. At this point the whole waiting room, in true British style, have turned their heads in the opposite direction to Mr. M, and are actively trying not to look while similarly avoiding eye contact with me, and the disrespectful small child who draws attention to people's disabilities. Me, yes, that is Mr. M. We see him at school, don't we? "Son, yeah, he came in to talk to us one day. Oh gosh, what is coming next? He drives his car with his feet. Please don't say more, he is totally awesome." Massive sigh of relief, "Yeah dude, he really is." Number 3. We were at the grocery store one time and my little brother saw a man with a prosthetic arm. He was so excited because "Mommy, sissy, look, he has a robot arm." The guy was totally cool about it and even let lil bro touch the robot arm, and they became buddies and waved at each other every time they passed each other in the store. Number 4. Commenter. My son came home from kindergarten with his backpack full of canned food. When pressed about the issue, he confidently stated that he had told the teacher he was hungry and we didn't have any food at home. They had sent him home with the donations for those in need. We got him to return the food the next day. It's a funny story we tell now, but talk about embarrassment. Person B. You are not alone on this one. My friend's son told his teachers they don't have a turkey for Thanksgiving, so they sent him home with a voucher for a turkey. His mom had to explain they were just serving ham and not needy. When my sister was little, she didn't understand the food drive concept. My mom sent her to school with canned soup to donate, and she came home with Kraft macaroni and boxed mashed potatoes. She loves some mashed potatoes. My mom had her return them the next day. Sister was salty. Number 5. I was in Costco and my son, who was about 5 at the time, ran up to me, grabbed my hand and started pulling me towards the next aisle. Dad, look. Real ninjas. Whilst pointing at 2 women in full burqas. Number 6. My wife had my 3-year-old at the park one day. She decided to pick up some litter to make the park look nicer, so she was throwing away pop bottles, chip bags, etc., and he wanted to help. He stoops to pick up some cigarette butts and my wife says, "Leave those to mommy." She wasn't going to pick them up but didn't want him to touch them either. A few minutes later he went to play. He tells another mom, "I'm finding cigarettes for mommy." My wife was so embarrassed and said she got the dirtiest looks from nearby parents who heard this. Number 7. Commenter. I was with a group of friends and was asked if I drink. I said I don't really, and my daughter said, "But mom, you drink all the time." She had no idea the difference between drinking alcohol and drinking everything else. Person B. That is exactly why when my mom was pulled over once, I told the cop from the back seat she's drinking and driving too. I've been harping on her about that and she continued to tell me they meant alcohol, not soda, but I didn't believe her for some reason. My mom gave the cop a very flat, frustrated "It's Dr. Pepper." The cop laughed, "Thank goodness." Person C. Yup. Even told a police officer that my dad drinks and drives all the time. My poor dad. This was during a check stop. The police officer saw the coffee cups that my mom and dad always traveled with, and upon discovering no alcohol let us continue. He probably laughed with his coworkers after we left. After that my brother and I got the "don't say anything during a check stop" lecture. Number 8. My youngest sibling is 10 plus years my junior, so I grew up with him embarrassing me in public. The worst was around Christmas one year when we went to Walmart after going to a church service. The service was about the virgin birth and how no other virgin had ever had a baby before. My brother was probably about 4 to 5 at the time, so while he didn't know exactly what made someone a virgin, that service taught him virgins couldn't have babies. Anyway, we're in the checkout line and behind us is a woman who is obviously pregnant. My brother points to her and says very loudly, "Look, that lady isn't a virgin." Number 9. Me and my 3 years. Were at my mom's house, and to get her to leave I told her, "Come on, we have to go home and take a shower." To make her laugh I said we need a shower because our bums are stinky. Later when we got home in a full elevator, my daughter turns to me and says, "Mommy Uniki." I was mortified. Number 10. Commenter. My son was 2 and thought every black man was his dad. He was away for the military a while, so when we were at Boston Market he called another random stranger daddy. And ran to him and hugged him. Ha ha ha, the guy actually picked him up and said, "I'm not your dad, but hey buddy." I was mortified but couldn't stop laughing. Person B. I did that same exact thing when I was little. My dad had moved out of the state for work and my mom and I temporarily stayed behind to sell the house. Apparently any white man with a beard was my father and I'd run shrieking daddy at them. Person C. My niece used to do this to random men at Target and the grocery store. She was 3 and would wave at them from down the aisle and scream, "Hi Dada. Hi." If she was not in the cart she would run and hug their leg. She didn't care if they were with their own kids, wife, whoever. Her father was not in the military, however. He was at home. My sister got some very bad looks from lots of wives/girlfriends of these random men. Number 11. My child isn't old enough to talk yet, but when I was little, and we were on holiday, my dad used to get me to say I was younger than I was so we could get into theme parks cheaper. When we were on our way back, the gentleman at passport control asked me how old I was and I turned to my dad and said, "How old am I today, Daddy?" Number 12. During a private Remembrance Day, Armistice Day, ceremony with veterans, my 3-year-old soiled her diaper. I changed her in a back room and when we came out, it was the moment of silence. She slammed the door and yelled to all the vets, "I just had a big poo. And it had peanuts in it." Number 13. At the grocery store, my daughter, who was 2 at the time, and I were about to pass an African American lady in an aisle. At this point, she had never seen anyone with a darker skin color such as hers. She's about 2 feet from us. So, she sees her, turns to me and yells, while pointing, "Look mom. It's a chocolate lady." I froze for a second, said, "Yes honey, isn't she beautiful?" She yells yes, and I practically run away down the aisle. That poor lady was such a good sport. Edit bonus. We met a man with a hook for a hand and she sprinted up to him to ask him if he was Captain Hook. Facepalm. Luckily he said yes and pretended to run after her. Number 14. I took my daughter into the men's bathroom in a supermarket as she had to go. When in the cubicle, she did her business. I helped clean up, then we came out. I went over to the sinks to wash my hands and she pointed at a guy peeing in the urinal. "Daddy, that man has a penis like you. He has a little penis and you have a big penis." I scooped her up and we left quickly. I felt so bad for that guy getting called out like that by a wee girl. Number 15. My daughter, 4, and I were in an old mom and pop country market, doing some light shopping and they had just dropped some chicken into a deep fryer. I'm guessing the oil was multi-purpose, because it had a rather odd smell to it. Didn't faze me any, but my daughter was having none of that. Initially she was simply holding my hand and walking alongside me. At some point in time, I suppose the smell hit her, so she tugged on my shirt and wanted to pick it up. She's tiny, we'd been walking around for quite a bit, so I obliged. She took this moment to lean in a bit close to me and say, "It stinks in here, Daddy." I made the mistake of saying what? Which brought along an avalanche of her then declaring, quite loudly, "It stinks here, Daddy." She proceeded to do this for the remaining 15 minutes of our shopping, only pausing to bury her face in my chest and shoulder. I used this as an excuse to speed up my shopping process as I was getting the occasional side-eye and giggling from random passersby. As we approached the cashier, my daughter with her face buried in my chest, now mumbling "it stinks" without lifting her head, they were kind enough to ask my little girl how she was doing. Without missing a beat, my girl pulls herself away from me and leans towards the cashier and, once again, exclaims, "It stinks in here," before resuming her buried face. I shrug my shoulders, pay for my stuff and walk outside. My daughter then detects that we're no longer surrounded by the stench of bad frying oil and takes a huge, exaggerated breath with an exhale of relief. I have more. She was a character at that age. Number 16. My very white and blonde daughter was at McDonald's playing in the play area. There was a little black boy she was playing with. He had gone over to eat when his mom brought the food over to their table. My daughter didn't notice and she came over to me and very loudly asked me, "Where did the chocolate boy go?" His mom heard and looked over. I was mortified at the time, but now I just think it's funny. Number 17. We were eating out one night with my parents, who were in town visiting, when my son started staring at an overweight woman trying to fit into a chair. Seeing him staring, I tried to distract him, but he was having none of it. At the top of his lungs he said, "Mommy, that lady is too big for that chair." I was mortified, but my parents could barely hide their laughter. Number 18. My daughter was 3 and was learning the concept of big versus small at nursery. Cute, right? I picked her up from nursery one day, and had to run to the bank before heading home. It's our turn, I'm talking to the bank teller, and my daughter looks at me and goes, "Mama, you're big." "Yes baby, I'm big." She turns to the bank teller and goes, "I'm small, and you're big." Bank teller is laughing with my daughter, oohing and ahhing at how cute she's being, when all of a sudden, a little person walks up to the counter next to us. My daughter notices. She looks at him and screams, "Mama, look. It's a small man. Look mama, he's small, so small mama, look at how small." I've never wished for the floor to open up and swallow me whole more than that moment. I honestly wanted to die. Number 19. I was dating someone who had 3 kids. The missus had a headache, so she looked after the youngest while I went to do grocery shopping with the older 2. We were at the deli counter talking to the staff who served us regularly, and the exchange went something like this. Staff talking to the kids, "Isn't it nice of daddy to help mommy out with the shopping?" 4-year-old at the top of her lungs, "That's not my daddy." Suddenly staff and shoppers all turned around and stared. I can only imagine they thought I was a kidnapper or something. Number 20. I was walking in a Target store with my then 4-year-old daughter. It was a sale day, I forget what, and it was pretty crowded. She was getting tired of dodging carts and people, so she asked to be held. I put her on my shoulders to make navigating easier, and when I was walking down the center lane, this woman came out from the side, shoving her cart right in front of me and stopping to look at an end cap. I had to come to a sudden stop to avoid her, and my daughter slipped a bit. I straightened her up and then went around her, muttering "stupid bitch" under my breath. Well, my daughter heard, and as we passed the woman, my child turns her head and yells, "Stupid bitch." I heard a gasp from the woman, but I kept walking. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.